Hi guys, so as Parliament reopened, Boris Johnson took a question from the leader of the SNP in Parliament, Ian Blackford, about the furlough scheme. So let's hear what they had to say.
We now come to the leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford, on the first of two questions.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And can I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition on the tragedy that we witnessed close to Stonehaven, and indeed to the tribute that we had to John Hume from the Leader of the Opposition. John Hume, a man that did so much for the delivery of peace in the island of Ireland. Mr Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister told his Cabinet, and I quote, "I am no great nautical expert, but sometimes it is necessary to tack here in response to the facts as they change." It was surprisingly honest for the Prime Minister to admit his government is all at sea. A UK government now defined by 8 U-turns in 8 months. But if the Prime Minister is true to his word, then surely he must see sense and change tack for a 9th time. With the clock ticking for struggling businesses and workers, will the Prime Minister commit today to extend the job retention scheme beyond October? Or is his government making the political choice to accept levels of unemployment last seen under Thatcher in the early 1980s?
I love the Scottish wit and the Scottish use of prose. So, yes, this is a very important issue. Are the government going to extend the furlough scheme? Because so many people can't get back into work. Many people are working part-time. Many companies have closed. Many companies have decided to lay people off because there is no work. Now, the government have been asking people to return to the office, have been trying to encourage companies to encourage their staff to return to the office. But we're into a new normal now. We're into a new society, a new way of working. Fewer and fewer people are going to go back and work in the city centres. It's not going to be like that in the future. Yes, some people will return, but large numbers will not. Companies have decided to use this pandemic as an opportunity to save money and to increase productivity. In many cases, for example, in service industries, they're saving a huge amount of money by not having people sitting in offices. They don't have to pay heating, lighting, air conditioning, taxes for those taxes if they own the buildings, or rent if they have to rent the buildings. They don't have to pay staff meal coupons or whatever to spend for their lunch breaks or whatever like that. Companies are saving a lot of money by allowing people to work from home or asking people to work from home. This is the new normal. Now, of course, by having more and more people working from home, it's going to be damaging to small businesses, for example, in city centres, bars, restaurants, sandwich takeaway places. And those companies are struggling at the moment. I think it's a good idea to try and help those companies out. But it's not sustainable. You're maintaining a life support system. Eventually, you'll have to pull the plug. Now, the furlough scheme is different. The furlough scheme is providing people with the means to live. I believe that we should not have a furlough scheme. We should have a universal basic income scheme. Give people the money they need to live. And we don't even have to worry about whether they're going into offices or not.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I members of opposite of all parties seem to want to extend the furlough scheme, which has already cost this country £40 billion,
Why is it when it's money for people, it's a cost? When it's money for companies, it's an investment. Isn't that interesting? It's cost £40 billion. This is money you're giving to people, and they're spending it in the economy. This is not a waste. This is not money that's going down a black hole. This is not like, spending money on the military to build weapons that destroy themselves when they hit buildings in a faraway country. It's not money down the drain. This is money that you're giving to people and they're reinvesting it in the economy. They're spending it. I think it's actually a good idea to maintain it. I would extend it forever. Boris Johnson seems to think this is a problem. We need to cut it. We need to eliminate it.
It helps supported 11 million people, but after all keeps them in suspended animation and prevents them from going to work. What we want to do is get people back to work. And that's why...
But in some cases, there is no work. Get people back to do what? It's like saying to the waitress or the waiter who's working in the sandwich bar, you need to get back to work. And they say, yes, but my company has closed. There is no work. What work? Get back to what? My bar has closed because the offices are not asking people to come back to those offices. There's no more demand for coffees on the go. There's no more demand for sandwiches. The footfall that does actually take place isn't enough to pay the rent in the city centre. This is the reality. Cutting off the furlough scheme is going to be extremely damaging. But why is Boris Johnson doing it? Because certain businesses need people back into the offices. They need people working because they want to make profits. They don't care about the pandemic. They don't care about the consequences for ordinary people. They need to make lots of money. And if people are staying at home, they're not making lots of money. So they're putting pressure on the government to change the rules, or at least eliminate protections for ordinary people.
And that's why I hope he will instead support our Kickstarter scheme to get young people into jobs and support them in those jobs. How much better is that than languishing?
So the Kickstarter scheme is just an attempt to give companies some money to hire young people, to take these people off dole queues. That's it. What jobs will these people do, these young people do after? Our society is changing, and we're still using 20th century tools to deal with a 21st century problem. Technology is replacing jobs. Robotics, AI, whatever. We can't continue to use old tools to deal with these problems. We need to think outside the box. We can't continue just to say, let's train people up. Because we're training them up to do what?
Out of work.
Ian Blackford.
My goodness, Mr. Speaker, languishing out of work. The furlough scheme is there to protect people so they can come back to work when the time is right. Mr. Speaker, France, Germany and Ireland have extended their furlough scheme into 2021. Mr. Speaker, they have made a moral choice. They are not prepared to punish their people with record levels of unemployment.
This is very good rhetoric by Ian Blackford. So he said they've made a moral decision. So he's contrasting this with the Tories, who are immoral. Not amoral, immoral. And then he said they're not punishing their people. Of course, Boris Johnson is punishing the people. Get back into work. You have to get back into work. And his friends in the media, Nick Ferrari, for example, was, get back into work, stop staying at home. We need you back working, because I need someone to clean my home. I have to clean my home by myself at the moment, and that's terrible. Or I like to have my coffee made for me as I'm just before I enter the doors of LBC. Now that bar is closed, I have to make coffee at home. That's unacceptable, or I have to drink the terrible coffee they have in LBC.
Mr. Speaker, people in Scotland are seeing a tale of two governments. While the Tories are cutting furlough scheme support, yesterday Nicola Sturgeon was announcing new investment to protect jobs, including a youth guarantee. We all know that jobs are under threat if the furlough scheme ends in October. The power to end this threat lies with the Prime Minister.
And he's completely right here. There's a tale of two governments. In Scotland, they are caring about the people, caring about workers, and in England, they're not. And Boris Johnson has the power to extend the furlough scheme. It makes sense to extend it. It doesn't make sense to cut it off now. You know, if you said, we're going to extend it for particular sectors, or we're going to extend it for, you know, we're going to extend it but at a lower rate or something like that, that would be a compromise. But there doesn't seem to be any compromise on the table. It's we're cutting it off and that's it. People have to get back to work. We don't care whether there's a pandemic or not. You have to get back into work. We don't care if there's a job for you or not. Get back into work. Get back into spending money. That's all we care about. We don't care about public health. We care about people spending money. Why? Because the big people, the people who donate to our party, need you to spend money. And at the moment, you're not spending money, and they're not giving us money to maintain our party.
He do his duty and extend the furlough scheme, or are we going to return to levels of unemployment last seen under Thatcher, with the resultant human misery?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we are doing is not only continuing with the furlough scheme, as he knows, until the end of this month, which is by far more generous, by the way, than anything provided in France or Germany or Ireland. We're continuing.
Okay, yes, it's more generous, but it's for a shorter period of time. Theirs is less generous, but it's for a longer period of time. If they know, okay, the money I'm receiving is not a huge amount of money. In Ireland, it's actually quite, it's extremely generous. I don't know about the other countries, but at least if you know you're getting something, you can say, well, okay, at least for the next year, I know my mortgage is paid, or my rent is paid, or some bills I can allocate this money to. So this is paid, and I'm safe. I can try and muddle my way through. But if somebody tells you, well, at the end of this month, or the beginning of October, I think it's the end of October, it's gone. It's a cliff edge. Doesn't matter if we're giving you £2,500 this month. The next month it's zero. I think people would prefer it spread out. Even if you said, we're not going to give you £2,500 we're not going to give you £2,500. We're going to give you £1,500, or we're going to give you £500. That would be a help to people.
With it, but we will also, after that scheme elapses, we will get on with other measures to support people in work. And starting today, there is the Kickstarter scheme to help young people get the jobs that they need. That is in addition to a £160 billion package that we have spent to support the economy throughout this crisis. This government has put its arms around all the people of this country to support.
You hear the unionist message here. It's around all the people of the country, including Scotland. This government cares about everyone.
Them throughout the crisis. That is what we are doing, and we will now help them to get back into work.
Great.
We will see if this Kickstarter initiative is a success or not. But I think a problem is that some people will not be helped by the Kickstarter, but a lot of people will be helped by the furlough scheme. And cutting off the furlough scheme now doesn't make sense economically and socially. But I think that there's pressure from outside, there's pressure from Tory donors to end this. They want people back into work because it's harming profits. It's always been about that. Government's job is to protect certain parts of the business class. That's the Tory party's function. And to hell with the workers. I hope that Rishi Sunak will grow a heart. He's not completely Tory, and he will decide, maybe we should extend it for until the end of the year, maybe have it at half the rate or something like that. But once again, I have to reiterate this issue, this point. The furlough scheme is not a cost. It's an investment in people. The government presented it as a cost. They present it as something we're paying for that needs to end. And that's the wrong approach. It's an investment in people, because people will spend that money in the economy. People will help the economy by having that money, and that's security. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?